Welcome back to the Actual VR podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Mann, the owner of Actuality VR. This is the podcast where we give you a behind-the-scenes look at the VR revolution in real time with real professionals. We take a look at immersive tech news and interview professionals in their respective fields. Today, we're joined by the dynamic duo behind the Rabbit Hole VR, one of the top 5 rated VR arcades in the US. In our talk, we'll reveal how they became the first VR arcade in the US, how they diversified to become more than just an arcade, and how they're creating the largest VR center in the Southeast. But first, we're joined by the team digital marketing specialist, Nick Brown, as we talk about the news stories we covered on the Actual VR show this Monday. Don't forget, if you've been enjoying this and all of the content we put out, to subscribe to our platform of choice, your platform of choice. With that said, let's go. All right, guys, we're here. We're here with Nick Brown.
What's up, everybody?
Social media specialist, web developer, all-around good guy. And this is part of the show where we go over what we talked about on Monday with the Actual VR show. So on Monday, we talked about Tilt 5, which is a company that came out with an AR headset for tabletop games. We also talked about Bjork's new VR album that came out. And then we talked about a community icon, a community personality, Victor Riddell. Again, I'm sorry if I'm getting your name wrong, but he has this new project out called Veeples, which is super interesting. But we're going to start with, we dabble in some team building here at Actuality VR, specifically using, sometimes we use this table, sometimes we go over to your office, but we like to play a little D&D for some team building.
Yeah, we're no strangers to the game.
No strangers to the game.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact,
when it comes to dungeoneering and exploring the dungeons, conquering the dragons, it's something we're familiar with.
It's something we're familiar with. You find that you learn a lot about people when you play D&D with them. And so Tilt 5 is coming out with these augmented reality glasses. They're different than typical AR glasses like the HoloLens and Magic Leap. Have you seen those or know anything about?
Well, I remember there was an episode of the Actual VR show where you were talking about the Game of Thrones experience.
That's
which
true.
was Magic Leap with the ice.
Yeah. There were some zombies or some ice.
Yeah.
Again, I haven't watched
Ice Walkers or something.
Ice Walkers. Is that the producer Casey? Is that Ice Walker? Is that correct?
White Walkers.
White Walker.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
White Walkers.
Well, they got ice going on.
Yeah. There's things going on. But what the technology is a little different. They with those headsets, what they do is they have little lenses that go on they project a display onto the lenses themselves. I think we call this near sight augmented reality.
They look like swim goggles.
They do look like swim goggles.
Yeah.
Steampunk swim goggles. The Magic Leap does. But what they're doing is a little bit different. Actually, Casey, could you? We've got their promo video lined up. They had a Kickstarter, but I think they're beyond that now. But we've got their video queued up here.
Yeah. Keep talking.
Keep talking. So again, they use Farsight. So what they do is this reflective mat that goes on your table. They project light from the actual lenses, from the glasses that you wear, which is multiplayer. So everybody around the table has this pair of these glasses on, and it projects light onto the table. And then the reflection is what gives you that augmented reality 3D experience. So it uses a totally different technology.
That sounds pretty wild, dude.
Yeah. And I think one of the people that's on this project worked on the same technology at a different company.
Wait, so is it like lasers?
No, it's light is what I read about. I mean, light is a very simple way of, I'm sure, explaining the technology, but
He's ready for it?
Yeah, let's take a look at it. You haven't seen this before, have you, Nick?
No, I haven't.
Oh, sweet. So there's the mat. If you're just listening, there's also a controller, like a wand. These glasses are independent. There's no computer attached to them. And they've got some figurines there. Oh, that's super cool. So you're looking down into this dungeon. It has depth. Like you can look down into the depths. They've got some like casino type games. That looks like a ROM for NES.
Wait, so is it the table a screen?
Yeah. Essentially, they're looking through their glasses at the screen and they're interacting with a wand. Like they're able to push things around. There's physics in it. That's pretty cool. So I imagine that's probably just a normal game. So this is going to be like you have to develop for this platform. That's really cool.
I feel like they do this with like tables at restaurants or something.
That looks like it's essentially what those like the Pac-Man machines,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
actual
yeah.
like tabletop
The old
ones.
school pizza
Could you
parlor
imagine?
version,
Yeah. Mr. Gaddy's. Did you ever have a Mr. Gaddy's? Doesn't I had that in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but essentially it's adding depth to that type of experience. It's 3D. You're looking down into it. There's it's really cool.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. So what it judges where you are positioned at looking at the screen by the goggles you have on your face. Is that what's
I would imagine that's what's
and then
happening.
you're kind of tweaking it with the wand.
Yep, you can
looks
manipulate and
It looked like an Xbox One like lighter for your grill, dude.
it did look oh wow, yeah. No, it really did. It really did because it's got this really long antenna, but looks like a grill lighter.
Yep.
Oh man, I didn't even think about that. But that's what they specifically, and I think some interviews that I read from the owner of the company is he's really excited about like the D&D possibilities of being able to
That'd be
put
cool, yeah.
like, so as you as a dungeon master, can you imagine like you've designed this entire experience and you can reveal it in time in real time through the click of a button. So that would be pretty cool.
Totally.
It is, so the headset, it doesn't have a cable, but what this whole thing is powered by is your computer. So the graphics aren't limited to what's just in the headset itself.
Well, that's pretty cool because, like, as far as developing those sorts of environments, for like example, if you were to be making like a D&D campaign, to like have to set up all that map, and then kind of like set, like your perspective from how far away you are and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You definitely want like a cool software for that.
Yeah, and that's one of the things they're talking about is that to develop for it, that's what I'm curious about. Because you think about the possibility of a general consumer being able to come up with their own map. I don't know how viable that is, but for tabletop game companies to develop an app to be able to have like preloaded maps or like the assets already exist for you to be able to manipulate, that would be cool.
It reminds me of Neverwinter Nights on PC. They actually had like a build your own map sort of situation.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and you could like host your own games like
Really?
online. Yeah.
I didn't know that. I played Neverwinter Nights, but I didn't know I briefly played it on PC. That's dope. That's dope. But let's talk about, speaking of things that are dope, Bjork came out with a VR album.
Oh, wow.
So back in 2016, she's been showing these virtual reality music videos. See, this one was published on June 6th of 2015. This is at the very start. Like this was the first, we're talking to the month when YouTube was able to play 360 videos. You can't deny the fact that she's
an innovator, dude.
She was, I don't know this for a fact.
It fits her brand.
But I would imagine she was the first music video to ever be published on YouTube.
Wow.
So she's standing on a beach right now. I'm assuming in Iceland.
So Bjork's in the 360 video history book, you'd say?
I would say so. And I'd say she's probably the first one to come up with an album entirely in VR.
Yeah.
I mean, the album's available outside of VR, but...
Is that a lighthouse over there?
I do believe so. This is...
That's a nice sky, though. It's kind of got like the actual VR sort of colors going on there.
She knew. So she's moving over. Casey, could you fast forward to maybe like 4.5 minutes in? You can actually see in the thumbnail there, if we fast forward, I think she starts incorporating multiple... There it is.
That looks like a Star Trek Next Generation uniform.
It does look like. Or it's somebody who would be in Star Trek Next Generation.
Oh, yeah, totally.
So this is probably... Oh, yeah. So she now has like 5 versions of herself really close to the camera.
Wow.
Super close to the camera. This is Stone
Hey,
Milker.
there's that lighthouse, dude.
Is the name of the
Did you see that
song?
lighthouse over there? That was the one we were checking out earlier, dude.
Oh, yeah, the location change.
Yeah, they scooted over there.
Is she moving across the seam here?
Yeah, avoiding the
Okay,
lighthouse.
I will say, technically, in 2015, that's impressive. Because we didn't have the ability to keyframe. I would imagine this was done entirely in After Effects, using tools that, or utilizing in a way, executing in a way with tools that didn't exist. the hard way. They did it the hard way before the tools made it easy.
Yeah, well, it's the pioneer sort of scenario, dude. Like, they're the first person to climb Everest, you know? That was tough. But now, you know, they got a line going up there or whatever.
Oh, yeah, there's plenty of people up there now. Just too many people, I'd say.
Yep.
So, I mean, I'm not a personally, I'm not a fan of Bjork's music. I think what she does is pretty cool, pretty innovative. But like I said, this album was available in museums since 2016 to be able to view. But now it's the first time you can get it on Steam and Oculus Store, I believe.
Stone Milker? What?
$30 for this album. Yep. Bjork. I don't know if that's a legitimate, that's her
Well, it's got the little music
channel.
sign there.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know.
She shuns capital letters.
Does she really?
Based off
Did
of
she make
video.
that statement? My name's Bjork. I make music and I hate capital letters.
Yeah. They're so inhibitive, dude.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I like Sigur Rós. They're an Icelandic band. That's probably the closest I've ever gotten to Bjork. I've never met anybody who listened to Bjork.
It's like their neighbors, not so much musically, but geographically.
Yeah. I can list the bands that came out of Iceland in one hand. 2 fingers. I can only name 2.
Yeah. Where did ABBA come from? What was that?
Finland?
Finland.
Oh yeah, boy.
Yeah.
Resident ABBA
That was a complete
specialist.
guess. I don't know.
I don't know. Actually, I was just thinking ABBA earlier.
Hey, if you know, drop it in the comments.
Oh yeah.
Please
We'll
do.
see it there, yeah.
Yeah, because we don't know.
Was it Sweden? I don't know.
Sweden. It
Oh,
was Sweden.
that sounds better. Yeah. Don't know if it's right, but it sounds better.
Yeah. Anyways, back to
So yeah, so for the third story, we talked about a friend in the community, Victor Riddell. He originally he created this website. I don't know if he created it. He was certainly a contributor to it, and it was a big promoter to it. The only promoter of this website called vrdizzy.com. And actually, I don't think I sent that to you, Casey. But if you go to vrdizzy.com, in a separate tab, I'd like to keep his Facebook open too, because I want to show you guys. If you're listening, I'm so sorry. You can always check out the video on YouTube and Facebook if you really want to check it out, or you can go to vrdizzy.com to check this out as well. But this was a satirical news site for the immersive tech industry, and so actually, this most recent one we talked about. So we talked about the marketing research weeks ago about this $3,000 or $7,000 market research that you could get about the cameras, and that's kind of it's kind of funny. They're making fun of that. New VR website can now auto generate 100 articles per day, with a guy in a headset that says Newsbait VR. So some of them are really funny. Like when Leap Motion was first coming out, they had something called Sheep Motion. That's interesting. I don't know what he's got around his waist there. Leaked Volve headset image contains clues to hidden location of the Lost Killer app. Wow. So I mean, it all started there. If you go to the free stuff,
I do want to point out that it says build my amazing AR app idea for a tiny percentage ? Asks diluted. Got it.
If you go to the free stuff, this is actually one of the things that I feel bad because he did try selling these at first, and I think they're really valuable. I think they may have been a little overpriced, the reason why they didn't sell, but he eventually just gave them out for free, so you can download these for standard or canvas layouts. But they're the little warning signs. If you're coming into a VR space, some of them say, "I can't guarantee your safety when I'm in VR." And it's a picture of somebody hitting you in the head. Warning: wall punching may occur. Attention, VR user may peek at you through nose gap. If anybody knows, you put on a VR headset, like that's how you look at people, through the nose gap,
dude.
The nose peek. Attention, may occasionally tangle fall, and don't panic. It's just my VR face, non-contagious from the red marks that you get on your face. There's I thought they're really clever. They look like safety warnings, I guess. But specifically, he has this new story that he's kind of developing. His post, "Hey VR humans, I've been taking some time out to work on a short story featuring a brave squad of Veeple who embark on an epic journey to discover the legendary Lost Killer app and prevent the imminent death of VR." So he's created these little characters that are going to be the main characters for a story, and each character is a headset. So you can see that first picture there, Casey, right underneath that post.
Which one?
The picture. There you go. So each one of them, there's 5 total characters. You have PSVR. You look like you have the Valve, Index. You have the Oculus Rift. You have the Quest, and then you have the HTC Vive. And if you look, the really cool thing is like the Valve one has like a little valve on the back of them. They're like, I mean, they look like little minions. It's super clever. And the Oculus, the Oculus Veeple person doesn't have a tail. If you look down at the bottom here, you see all those tails down there.
Yeah.
So if it's a wireless headset, they don't have a little tail. But I thought it was really cool, and I wanted to show some love to Victor.
Pretty cool, dude. I dig it.
Yeah. So really cool, and that's just a creative way to use the tech, or to highlight the tech. I thought it was pretty cool.
Totally.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's everything that we went over on the actual VR show. But we have a very speaking of VR headsets, we have a special guest coming up
in
a second.
Who's that?
Yeah, so I want you guys to stick around. It's probably they were the owners of the largest VR Okay, you know what? I'm gonna leave right there. You're gonna see in just a second, guys. Stick around. Wait. 2 seconds. We'll be right back. For our main guests today, oh yeah, there's 2 of them. This duo made a splash in the Nashville virtual reality market when they opened the Rabbit Hole VR, the first VR arcade in Tennessee. Probably the world, but no, but they are one of the top 5 rated VR arcades, and unofficially the first VR arcade here in the US. They're the world's leading authority in VR arcade consultation and customer experiences. I consider these 2 good friends, and I hope by the end of this conversation you will too. It's my pleasure to introduce Jennifer and Mitchell Poythress. All right, guys, we're here. We're here with none other, the duo, Mitchell and Jennifer Poythress. What's going on, guys?
Hi.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Of course. Well, thanks for coming on here. I know you guys are crazy, but you guys have a lot of things going on right now. But I don't want to talk about that yet. We're gonna leave a little cliffhanger because some big things coming across. But so in doing my research and talking to you guys, we met. Was it back in 2016? I don't even know the year. Was it 16?
It was probably
2016. 2016.
2016.
Yeah, that's when we kind of started our rental business. So we reached out to you.
Yeah, so you guys reached out. At the time, I was running the Nashville VR meetup. It was very short-lived. I'm glad Noah took it over. He's doing a much better job with it. But we were meeting at the Maker Studio.
Yes.
Which was a hot warehouse with people sawing in the background and welding and all that stuff. But it was a moment, and that was when I met Lee Keebler. That was when I met you guys.
Yep.
And that was a lot has changed since then.
A lot has changed. We didn't have a physical location.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had nothing. We had one headset, I think.
Yeah, one headset. We were, that was kind of the hub for all things VR at the time in Nashville, really. And it's definitely grown since then.
You started with a dream and a headset.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
So speaking of the dream portion of this, like at what point when you guys were thinking of like, what's the next step? Or was this something that was deliberately planned where you were like, okay, we want to take a step into owning a business, and VR was the thing that kind of you just hit like, well, there's no other VR. Like what was that moment that what was the deciding factor? Because it was not only the first in Nashville, it was one of the first in the country.
It was, at least in the US.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean that's a pretty big decision. There's a lot to go. So I'm just curious, like at what moment did you guys decide to do that?
Yeah. So I've always had kind of that entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial mindset of I want to own my own business. I've always worked for small startups, especially here in Nashville. I've never worked for like a big company. So I've always kind of wanted to own my own business. Back in college, I was part of the Collegiate Entrepreneurs Organization, and part of the exercises that we would do weekly is come and pitch new businesses. And I've always had this kind of concept of I was an airsoft guy, so room scale, massive warehouse. You come in, you put a VR headset on, and you can pick through a bunch of different maps, and it loads into this 30,000 square foot warehouse space, and you just start running around and having fun with your friends, right? Well, back in 2012, that wasn't really a thing, right? VR was kind of in like a little bit of a lull period at that time, but I always kind of kept that in like my repertoire of like, oh, this is going to be a good business one day. And then the DK1 came out a few years later, and I was on YouTube, so I was able to kind of use some swing to get the DK1, and it really wasn't much of like more than what like an Oculus Go is now. It was really mostly 360 experiences and stuff. So you may have seen those at like a mall kiosk or something, right? But you didn't see like arcades popping up with these. It wasn't until the HTC Vive came out, and we got that first generation HTC Vive, the room scale, affordable tracking technology. Now you're not looking at $1 million tracking systems and stuff. So that's where we really took the concept of like, hey, we got this headset. Let's start this rental business while we figure out the kinks behind it, the procedures of how to handle players and headsets. And then for a year we looked for a space.
Wow.
That's kind of how it got going. Was we got our hands on the technology and we just kind of ran with it.
Yeah. So Jennifer, when was this something that you both you were into VR as well, and you're like, yeah, like let's do this VR thing?
Yeah,
or was
definitely not that. So it was one of those things where I had a full-time job, working for a PR firm, and Mitchell kind of has had this idea for such a long time, and then once we had the headset, it was like, oh, this could actually be a real thing, and I didn't have the interest in VR, but like I tried it a couple times, thought it was really cool. I'm more seeing like, oh, this is actually a consumer-ready product at this point, whereas like the DK1 was not.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
Yes. So it's like, oh, okay, this is actually a business idea that could work. If you've ever had a conversation with Mitchell, he's got about 50 just in the lineup. But I'm like, this is one that could be really great. And Nashville is just in need of something that's not country music and not drinking on Broadway. So we kind of combined our powers, his background in business and entrepreneurship, and then my background with like PR and marketing, and actually got a decent business plan together and got someone to help us fund it. And once we finally found a space, now we did decide to open a business as Nashville was booming. So that's why it took so long to find a space.
Yeah.
One of the reasons, and just in general, as we're learning, it's just very difficult to find spaces that work for a VR arcade concept. So once we actually found the space, signed the lease, it's like, okay, this is real. So yeah.
So that was a moment like when you broke ground. You guys, the space, you did a lot of work to that space before you even put the arcade in there. It wasn't VR ready when you guys got there.
No, not at all. It used to be an old orthopedic shop, so they used to have like a workshop in the back and old exhaust fans going out the roof and stuff. We essentially just completely destroyed the whole inside.
Demoed it, got it down to the white box space, like if not even considered a white box.
Right.
Like it was just floor and walls.
And really the only reason we have walls is to divide tracking systems. So if it really wasn't for that, we wouldn't even really need walls in there, because what does VR need but open space, right?
That's true,
to walk around and move around. So
that's perfect.
Yeah.
So I mean, you guys were, it obviously was really exciting being in the VR space, to see the VR arcade, first VR arcade in Nashville in the Southeast, and really.
Oh yeah.
So what was that moment? Because obviously you guys, you started to see some traction. What was the moment where you're like, okay, this is going to be big. This is going to be like really big. Like, did you have that moment? Was there a specific instance where like a certain event, or like, was there a moment that you kind of had that like, we're really onto something here?
I think we're still waiting for it to get really big. but I think when we started noticing that it was really kind of starting to take off was that, obviously summers are very busy for us with people traveling. We hit the tourist market really hard in Nashville, but when it was like every Saturday was fully booked up from the time that we were open till the time that we were closed, and we were continuously turning people away, it got to the point where we were counting the number of people that we were turning away, and it was more than the number of people that we could fit in the arcade in a day. So
That's
it was
heartbreaking.
So yeah, right. And and we're losing, customers to competitors because we just don't have enough headsets.
Yeah.
So that was when we were like, oh God, we need to start looking at like, opening up a larger location, because people come in, they go, you can't just throw some more headsets up in the back. Like, no, that's not how it works.
We're like, trust us. We wish that we could take your money.
Yeah, wish we could.
It just doesn't work like that.
We were really conservative because we didn't know if a VR arcade was going to be successful or not. We didn't have other businesses to base our concept off of. We had to kind of figure it all out on our own. And we hit a lot of like hurdles when creating the business, because people don't know what a VR arcade is. So when it came to insurance and selling landlords on the concept, they were like, "What the heck's a VR arcade?" When they have codes when it comes to getting insurance and stuff. And they're trying to list off the codes. So bowling alley? No, we're not a bowling alley. Okay, skating rink? No, we're not a skating rink. So we hit a lot of hurdles doing that, but. I think there was another thing that we really noticed when it was kind of taken off, and I'll let Jennifer kind of talk about that.
Yeah, I think, well, the other one that I was thinking of is once we started seeing customers who would come in and play, and immediately when they were out of the headset, oh, how do you set up all this? How do you do this? I want to bring this to my city.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
And then past that, it was also then people coming into town, into Nashville, and into the arcade, just for the sole reason to see how we were setting up and like how we're running this arcade and that sort of thing.
We had a pretty proprietary like cable management system before we went fully wireless. So people really wanted to know how we did our cable management system. We had people traveling from like North Carolina, South Carolina, just to come to the arcade, just to have a tour, just to see it.
Yeah.
That was definitely one of the indicators, like, okay, this could be really big.
Yeah.
We could do multi-locations, go across state lines, that sort of thing. And past just the arcade business, there's a potential for a consultation business. So we've added that to our list of services. So working with potential arcade owners to bring this to, or just not even to bring it to their city, but do the market research needed to see if their city is viable for this.
A lot of people, it's just not viable in a city of like 20,000 people, Yeah. We have a hard time in a city that's got almost 1 million people in it, right? Or if
and a strong tourist market.
And a strong tourist market. So yeah. So, and that kind of plays in a little to what we did with Ubisoft with the consultation business. Was now we've realized people need help with VR equipment. They're maybe not they don't know all the intricacies of it and things like that. So
even if they know the intricacies, the VR equipment, as you know, is fickle, extremely fickle. Yeah. So even if it's a company, maybe one guy has the expertise to do it, they're exhibiting at an expo or they're having a corporate event or something. He's not got time to stand there and troubleshoot it when it goes down. So just managing events, working with companies to bring VR into their space, or working with business owners to see if this is something that could work in their city and how to set it up for different types of buildings. When you lease a space, it's not always just a big open area. You may be working around pillars and all sorts of things.
So layout design.
So now we've added consultation services to our business, and that's helped to kind of diversify the revenue streams.
Yeah.
Well, I know that was a huge help. So speaking of Ubisoft, they so we had the opportunity to work together with with the Escape Game convention that came to Nashville,
Trans World Escape Game Expo or something.
Yeah. And Ubisoft had a booth there for their Escape Game.
Yep.
And we met some really cool people. Shout out to the Blue Byte team.
Yep. We'll be seeing them next Tuesday.
We love you.
That's so exciting. Oh man.
Them.
I absolutely love those guys. I still wear that Ubisoft shirt just so I can. Nice. I mean, nobody really knows like what I'm like. You work for Ubi? No. But they're awesome.
I still remember when you called me and you were like, "Hey, I got this big game company. I can't talk about it, but they want to know if we can run like 8 VR, like 5 Pros." And I was like, "Yeah, we can do that." Okay. He's like, "All right, I'll get back with them. I'll let you know more soon."
That was so. I mean, that was really. I could not have done it without you guys. First of all, like I am so grateful that you were just like, yeah, let's do it. And you were a boss on set. No, I keep wanting to say on set, but when we were there, like there were things like go wrong.
It
just happens.
Inevitably.
And having you there was absolutely invaluable. So I want to thank you.
Thanks for thinking of us for that.
Of course,
really, that was great for us, and it lets us show like what we can do right on a big scale, especially when you're small like that. And it really is like, and that was the first time I'd really worked with Vive Pros because they were still a new headset at the time. So, and we used the OG Vives in the arcade. So it was a lot of work, but it worked out. And thank goodness we've got a cable management system up for them and stuff.
Oh,
so
that was
getting twisted up. So it was really nice. I was really impressed with like how all that went during the show.
That was super cool. Yeah. Yeah, I highly recommend it, guys that are listening. If you are thinking about doing a VR exhibit at your convention, I know a lot of companies out there do that. That's something that I think you should consider if you haven't already considered it. But you're going to need somebody like Mitchell and Jennifer to properly show you how you can set up, what's realistic, how many people, having one person there, if you have multiple headsets, may not be enough.
It's not a good idea.
That's one of the things that we encountered.
It allows the Ubisoft guys to focus on what they're there for, which is selling the experience, right? And we're dealing with if the equipment goes down, we're dealing with getting players in and out of headsets. Granted, a lot of things that we ran into there was that Ubisoft was there to sell the experience, right?
Yep.
But they were selling to escape game owners, right?
Yeah.
Who don't have virtual reality equipment. So I was getting a lot of we don't do the hardware side, but Mitchell, he has a VR arcade. So we actually ended up getting put in touch with a couple of escape game owners through Ubisoft to do consultations for them and stuff because of that expo. So it ended up playing out in the long run.
So speaking of things that worked out in the long run, so after that's when you guys introduced the escape room, the Escape the Lost Pyramid?
Escape the Lost Pyramid, which is what we were demoing at Transworld for them. Yeah, when we met them, I was like, because they were selling it to escape game owners who don't have VR equipment. So not only are they selling to escape game owners who don't have VR equipment, they then aren't really offering them the hardware side of things, right? So
that was the question that kept getting asked.
Coming up.
Do you guys do the hardware?
And I didn't want to overstep and be like, hey, I can help you, right? So I was kind of standing back, and if they approached me, because I was there to work for Ubisoft, so I didn't want to overstep bounds and be stepping on their toes. But it ended up down the road that they would send people to me that did want the hardware side of things, but. Yeah, they were selling it to escape game owners who have never heard of VR equipment before. And I was like, have you guys heard of VR arcades? Like, I have one. I can run your experience tomorrow, with the equipment. And they were, they may have heard of it, but they were I don't think they really fully understood the market for VR arcades at the time. And then, I think it was they flew back to Dusseldorf, and a week later, they got me all the information. And then, we had it up and running. I don't know if we were the first VR arcade. I want to say we're the first VR arcade in North America to offer it.
First VR arcade in North America, unofficial.
To start offering it. But it was pretty quick from the time that the event ended to when we started offering it. And we've done no marketing for that escape game. It sells itself. The fact that it's Ubisoft, Assassin's Creed, and an escape game.
Oh, man.
All of that's been, the education part's been done for us. We don't have to worry about, educating escape game people on what an escape game is. So,
exactly.
But they're like, oh, a VR one. I've never done a VR escape game before. And the production level of it's just amazing.
If anything, it's really helped us sell the VR side because people can understand what an escape room is. But if you say we're a VR arcade, they don't know what that means.
Right.
Just yet.
I think people still think you come in, you got quarters in your pocket, you stick them in a machine, you play at that machine, and then you're on to the next one, right?
I didn't really think about that.
Yeah.
That's to somebody, being in the industry, we know what VR arcade is, but to somebody who,
so
it's a machine. They put the headset on. There used to be one
They
that
have no idea.
battle tanks or
at
something
Dave
like
and
that.
Buster's, and you put your head in it, and
you're like a little turret.
Yes.
I wonder if that's what most people probably think of.
Probably so. Yeah.
So it's made us think about: do we need to kind of change the think about what we are? Are we a virtual reality arcade? Are we a virtual reality center? Are we what are we really? Just a better explanation of what it is.
Right.
Yeah. You guys
said before, into a headset, into a game, what verbiage do we use so that they can understand what they're supposed to be doing?
For sure. And I think you hit on something that I want to reiterate, because the value that comes from, especially within virtual reality, in being a content creator, there are certain things that no matter how well you explain it, people won't understand, especially with virtual reality.
Yeah.
Until they put on a headset.
Exactly.
And so I think it's really important. I did a couple of jobs for free just so I could show the experience. This is what it can be. This is what it is. And I thought that was really smart, because I think some people do get caught up in obviously, you don't give everything for free, but I think it's necessary when it comes to virtual reality to let people experience it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's getting our name out there as well, helping our team train, and then also using the marketing aspect of it. Yeah, we're giving this away for free, but in the long run, they will eventually come into the arcade and have a great experience.
That's we talked a little bit about. Before the show, we talked about the value of, especially when people haven't been in a headset before, you have some safety concerns, right? Yes. There's some things that people are going to try. People that don't understand, they've never been in a headset before, but how does how has that developed over the years? Because somebody who's never put on a headset before, there are certain things that you do and you don't do in a headset. How did you combat that with first time users?
Yeah. So again, the rentals were great. First time trainings for us even to figure out what to say and how to say it. And we've really fine-tuned how we train people on the front end when they come into the arcade and when we're off-site for a rental. So we have certain things that we say, certain language that we use. You want to be very succinct because once they put the headset on, one of their senses is gone. They are in that world. They don't want to listen to you anymore. So it's keeping it, very to the point, but also making it clear. And doing things like you don't want to touch someone when they have the headset on without letting them know first, because it's very jarring. Someone that you don't know, a kid, a woman, anything like that. Guys too, right?
Yeah.
Like you just don't want to be touched if you can't see it's weird.
Yeah. You don't see the touch coming. You just feel it. Yeah,
exactly. So doing things like, figuring out, we need to say this before we approach someone, and fine tuning the safety talk so that we do have to warn people not to lean or sit on virtual objects because they're not real.
The videos you see online of people just falling to that's real.
It's a real thing.
That's a real thing.
Yes. Even though we tell them not to do it, they will become very immersed and still do it. So it's usually younger kids. Usually the adults try to lean up. They'll try to lean against walls to rest. Usually kids will go to lean on something to reach. They'll put their weight down on something to reach, and then that's when they. So we try to have, we try to keep a high number of attendants to customer ratio. So there's always someone there to help them, interact with them, corral them, because that's really a lot of it. We also have proprietary software for our chaperone systems that help keep people inside their play areas a little better, more than just a visual, but there's also feedback and things like that. So on top of all that, there's really kind of a lot that goes into training them to keep them from, because it's really what it is. We are training them to play in VR. Right. It's really what it is.
Yeah, you have the extra, it's not just, when people try for VR for the first time, there's certain things that you have to be educated on before you go in. It just helps, some things that you are giving them kind of the crash course, the mistakes that we all made when we first started playing VR,
right?
You're able to succinctly summarize that and educate them before they enter it, so they can have the best experience possible. They don't have to worry about all the do's and the don'ts.
Right.
It's right there at the beginning.
Yep. From a business perspective too, we're looking to open multiple locations. So how do we get this really streamlined so we can teach employees so they can go to any location and so that our customer experience is the same no matter which rabbit hole VR location you visit. So it's really part of a bigger kind of business picture too, is we want to make sure that whether you go to our Nashville location or in Franklin, you're going to receive the same level of customer service and the same experience. And that's all about kind of our brand's mission and that sort of thing, like making sure that can be translated as we open up in new markets.
Speaking of new markets, so I hinted a little bit on the actual VR show about something big that was going on in Franklin.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. You guys are expanding into for those of you that are watching or listening, my company, Actuality VR, is based in Franklin. So I was very excited to find out that you guys are going to be coming here. It's about a 20-minute, 30-minute drive from downtown Nashville from your current location. So is there anything that you can like any teasers, anything that you can tell me about this new location? Because it seemed What can you what can you throw out there?
Yeah, I'm sure if I say anything too crazy, Jennifer will kick me or something. But we're in a former laser chase facility, so we can safely say it'll be the largest VR arcade square footage wise as well as number of headsets wise in the Southeast. So we'll open with at least 12 headsets, over 6,000 square feet. So that'll be, what you can expect there. We'll have our traditional room scale offerings. We'll also continue to offer Ubisoft escape games there as well. They really want us to continue offering them there.
That's so cool.
Especially with the number of headsets that we have there. Yeah. We're hoping to be able to facilitate 100-person plus team building events there. That's been something that we haven't been able to do downtown. And that was kind of the biggest thing for us, is we're turning away anywhere from 40 to 100-person plus team building events because we just don't have the space for it. So we'll be able to do that in Franklin. It's in the former A Games Sportsplex, now known as the TOA It's now known as the TOA Sports Performance Center.
Gotcha.
Going to be some really cool stuff going on inside that building.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But we'll be on the second floor. As far as like, different experiences and stuff, we're still working to get exclusive content for the rabbit hole. So like, if you want to play Escape the Lost Pyramid or Escape the Lost Pyramid or Beyond Medusa's Gate in Middle Tennessee, you have to come to a Rabbit Hole VR location. You wouldn't be able to play it at any other location. So working towards more exclusive content like that for our customers that can't play these games at home and want to come to an arcade and try out these new games and experiences with their friends. So we're working on new exclusive content and stuff like that for the Franklin location.
And just in general, different experiences that maybe is not room scale. So working more toward, Mitchell's original vision of how can we do some sort of free roam environment.
That would be cool.
It's not quite figured out yet,
We
but
have some experiences.
We
have
have
the
some things we're
experiences in
trying.
mind. They'll be in the escape game vein. So, but free roam. So where you move around in the same shared space.
And it kind of all ties back into what we were talking about earlier. We have VR arcade versus a VR center versus like a VR hub or something. And we're really moving toward the center kind of language, because it's going to be more than just your shooter arcade games or even like Beat Saber. It's going to be something more immersive, more well-rounded.
And it's all
just
going to be
arcade
wireless.
And wireless,
All wireless.
You heard it here. Well, that's, when we talk about, especially wireless open the door for these free roam experiences. Before we had, we had these backpack headset or backpack computers, and you have the Vive, but now, with things like the Quest, and then also too with, the fact that you can get a HTC Vive that is wireless.
Yeah.
Like that opens the door, the possibilities for what you can do.
Really does.
I want to touch on one other thing here. You guys mentioned the corporate aspect of it. So corporate train, not necessarily train, but like these team building exercises. And that's something that a lot of people don't really, they don't, when they think about team building, they're thinking of like, let's go paintball, let's go. But the thing is with virtual reality is that you could do all those things and more, right? I mean, do you guys see an interest there? Is that a big, big need?
What is funny is people will always say, oh yeah, the kids' birthday parties must be really big for you. And we're like, we do more adult corporate team building than kids' birthday parties. Because VR, at least in the way that it is now the Quest is a little bit different, but Vives and things like that, they are built for an adult head.
Yep.
So it really, and as far as, being able to pick up buttons and controls and things like that quickly, little kids struggle with that sometimes. So it really is, VR is a great adult activity more than anything. But yes, as far as selling corporate holiday parties or team building events or anything like that, that's a huge area for us.
Guys, I am so pumped. First of all, for you guys, that the fact that things are going well. Things are going really well. I love being able to see, just thinking about from that first moment we met to where you are now, and also too, you're opening up a center in my backyard, not figuratively, not literally. But I'm really stoked. I'm so thankful that you guys came on the podcast. It was great to finally, like, you guys were both so be able to sit down here and talk to you guys. I want to be able to do it again, and I'd love to catch up and see what you guys are up to in the future, because I know it's going to be good.
It's going to be some cool stuff coming out in the next few months. But we appreciate you having us
Yeah,
out. This is always fun.
Thanks, guys.
Great.
Hope you enjoyed the talk with Jennifer and Mitchell Poythress. They, we were talking after the show. We have a very special offer just to you guys here listening to the show. If you live in Nashville and you want to check them out, they're giving you 20% off, not 10%, not 5%, 20% off your visit at the Rabbit Hole VR Nashville and Franklin until the end of the year. Just use the promo code AVRShow and they'll give you that discount right up there. But remember, if you enjoyed anything we're putting out here, if you enjoy the show, we come out every Friday on YouTube and Facebook and pretty much anywhere you find a podcast. You check us out. Give us subscribe, like it, comment, do all the things you do when you appreciate the content that's coming out here. And don't forget, every Monday we have the Actual VR Show on Facebook and YouTube, where we go over all the things that are happening in immersive tech news. We boil them down into this sweet nugget of goodness for your busy day. As always, we'll see you next week. Catch you later.